Welcome to Art is Elementary. Today we will create
Shaded Forms Collage. Remember, shading is adding shadows. Shadows are created with light shining on an object. These red arrows show from which direction the light is shining. The shadow's edges are determined by the object that you are drawing. Something with sharp edges and flat surfaces, like a cube, will have dark or hard shadows at the edge. A round shape, like a sphere, would have a softer, more gradual shaded area to create the shadow. Notice the arrows pointing from which direction the light is shining, and also notice the highlight.
The art supplies you'll need for this project are 2 pieces of paper, pencil and eraser, scissors, glue stick, and markers.
Here is a quick demonstration. To begin, we will make 7 different geometric forms. We'll begin with a sphere. That's an easy one. And to make a sphere, we find something to trace a circle. I found this lid. I'm tracing using a Sharpie, but you will probably want to use a pencil with an eraser so you can correct any of your mistakes. Next, I'd like to show you how to make a cone. I'll go over here. To make a cone, I make an upside down V like so. And then from here to here, I'll make a curved line. A cone will have curved shading. Next, I'll make another shape that is similar to a cone. That's a pyramid, and we'll begin it the same way as we did the cone by making an upside down V. But instead of making a curved line here, we're going to start at the point and make a straight vertical line that's a little bit longer than these two, like this. Instead of stopping here, we go a little bit longer. Next, we connect these 3 lines with diagonal lines like this. There, that is a pyramid. Next, we'll make a cube, and to make a cube, we're going to begin by making a diamond on its side, like this. There's a diamond. Then you'll make 3 vertical lines going down from these 3 corners. Start here. Maybe I'll start in the middle. It will appear as if the middle one is longer, but in fact it's about the same length, as you can see. Now I'm going to connect those 3 lines with diagonal lines, straight lines like so. So now we have 4 of our geometric shapes. We're going to make another shape that is like the cube, but it's taller. So we'll begin with, do you remember? Yes, a diamond on its side. Then 3 straight vertical lines going down. I'm going to make these 2 the same, and then this one a little bit longer, like this. Then connect, like so. Very similar to the cube, the only difference is this is higher. Next, I'm going to make a cylinder. To make a cylinder, we make a long, skinny oval turned on its side. It's horizontal. Now we're going to make 2 lines from the very ends of the oval going down, and we're making them about the same length. Is that long enough? Nope, make it a little bit longer. I think it's about right. Now I'm going to go up and look at this curved line and try and copy that curved line at the bottom, connecting these 2 lines, and there's our cylinder. And next, we're going to make a shape that looks like a pyramid on its side. We'll make, there you go, a triangle like so, with only 2 sides. One is this length. The other one should be the same length, but it will appear to be a little longer. And then we'll copy the same diagonal line here, there. Now, let's go on to the next part, shading. First, I want to tell you that we are going to be shading. We're going to shade, and that means to add shadows. And one thing you must have when you want to make shadows, or if you see shadows, you have to have light. So I've made this picture of a spotlight right here, and I'm going to position mine over here on this side to remind me that this is where I want my light to shine from. Now you might want your light to shine from this direction, and if you do, your dark shadows will be on the left side, and your highlights, and I should write that word down for you, the highlights would be on the side that would get the exposure from the light. But I actually prefer mine over here, just out of habit. So first I'm going to tell you that when you shade curved objects, it's going to be different than those with flat sides. So we have a circle, or excuse me, a sphere, which is the form of a circle. Here we have a cone, which would be the form for a triangle. Here's another form for a triangle, but I only want to talk about these two right here, and this cylinder. The reason I want to talk about these first is these will be shaded differently, and the shadow would be gradual. So if you look, let's start with the sphere. So the light is shining down, and I'm going to use my pencil, moving from side to side, making the shadow. Do you see how I created a curve with my shadow? Now what you don't realize is by creating this curve, making my shading from side to side, what I'm doing is I'm creating the illusion that this is round like a ball. So now I'm going to make some darker shadows over here to the side. There you go. You can see that darker over here. So we've got our darkest shadows over here on the side, way over here on the right side, and our medium shadow here, and now I'm going to make a very light shadow. There, done with that. You can see that this is the area that's receiving the highlights. That's an important thing to remember. Now, if you go outside the lines, you can always go back with your eraser and clean it up. However, you really don't need to worry too much about it because you're going to cut all of these shapes out in just a few minutes when you're done shading. So I'm going to go over here and do the cone again next. And this is also a curved shape form. So watch this. See how I made that kind of curve there? You can see that I've created a line here with the shadow. So next I'm going to make some darker shadows over here. Because the light is shining onto the cone from this direction. So there, my cone is pretty much finished. And now we're going to go down to do the cylinder, and the light is hitting the top of the cylinder, and so I'm not going to shade that at all. I'm only going to do my shadow on the right side here, and it's going to get gradually lighter as it goes on the left side because the light is shining down on the left side. So I'm going to make my shadow. Notice that I'm using my pencil and making these lines, the shading from left to right. That's important. If you start going up and down, you're not going to get the desired outcome. It's going to be much more effective, look better, however you want to describe it, by making the lines from side to side. So I've got my darkest shadow over here on the right side where hardly any light is hitting the cylinder. Got a medium shadow here, and maybe I'll make a light shadow right here so it's kind of blended. So I basically have a light, medium, and dark shadow. So I've done my three shapes or forms that have curves. And now I'm going to talk about these four. So I'll go ahead and start with the cube first. Now I'll start with the shape here. And the full light is hitting this side, so it's going to be very light. So really, you're only going to be shading this side. This is where the shadow is, right here. This is the back side of that shape. Keep calling it a shape. We need to remember that shapes are two-dimensional, forms are three-dimensional. These are forms. And they're very geometric as well. All right, now I did make that one kind of dark, so I think I will shade this in just the lightest amount. Just very, very light. There you go, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm gonna, if I had to number the shadows on this form, I would say I would go 1, 2, 3 in darkness. So this would be the lightest shadow. This one is getting hit with the light, but not as much as the top, so this would have a medium. Actually, I should be going in this direction. There's the medium shadow. You can see that there's a difference between the medium shadow and the light shadow. And last, I'll make the darkest shadow. I'm pressing down a little harder with my pencil. There you go. Now I'm going to look at this one here, which is exactly the same as the cube, it's just taller. We've got our full light here, which would get the lightest shadow. The medium shadow here. Notice I'm going up and down this time, breaking my own rules. And my darkest shadow over here. So really, it's just like the cube. I have 3 different values of gray that I'm coloring in with my pencil. 3 different values, all going from light to dark, and simply I'm achieving this with the pencil and just pressing down harder to get that darker value. And last, I'll do this shape here. We've got our full light going right here, so maybe I'll use just the lightest shadow, and then our secondary shadow right here. All right, so now that I've shaded all my forms, I am ready to cut them out and go to the next part.
Once you are finished shading, you will cut your shaded forms out carefully and set them aside. Next, you will get a white sheet of paper about the size of computer paper. You will turn it horizontally and then draw a very light horizontal pencil line about 2/3 of the way down. The bottom space will be the table surface where we will glue the shapes in the foreground later. Now, use any colored marker and begin drawing a line design in the section above the line that makes the table surface. If you don't have markers, use anything that you have at home, like crayons or colored pencils. When you're finished decorating the background, glue the previously cut shaded forms by arranging them in a manner consistent with the light source and taking care of the positions of the forms on the foreground surface. Once your forms are arranged and glued down, you may go back and add cast shadows on the tabletop. Here are shaded form collages by students just like you. Your turn. Get started. The